everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
Hey everybody, this is Alton and welcome to The Deciding Factor. Today, we're going to be talking about whether or not you should have more than one source of income. So, welcome to the show. John, what's happening today?
Oh, not much. Getting ready for this, 20th storm to come by this month?
Yeah. It was hailing at my house yesterday, so we'll see what happens today. Maybe our podcast gets rained out.
I tell you one thing I'm really thankful for, though. It's summertime. Like, full-blown, the kids are out of school. We don't have to play teacher anymore, which, kind of leads me to a story. And it's, one thing we've learned over this course of the coronavirus and kids being at home doing their school there is I don't want to teach. I want them at school. I want the teacher to teach them. But then you start to realize some of the things maybe they haven't learned that maybe you think were normal by now. So I've got a daughter that was here with me last time. After we did the podcast, we were driving home. And so I handed her my phone. I said, I'm driving, let's order Domino's. And she was like, okay, what store? And I was like, oh, I don't know the address. I remember it had a Sweet D in it. And so she starts looking on the list and she goes, oh, yeah, there it is. Dr. Sweet 200 or whatever. And I'm like, doctor, what are you talking about? She said, DR. Nice. I was like, in streets, it's drive. It's not doctor. Have y'all not been taught any of this in school? And she's like, no. But then right away, she's like, oh, no. You're going to talk about me on the show again, aren't you? I said, yep, give me my phone. I got to make my notes. Yep. So she was a little concerned. She said, you got to stop talking about me on the show because my friends are going to hear it. And then they're just going to make fun of me all the time. And I said, if your friends are listening to our show, one of two things are happening. We're either really popular or Alton messed up on the marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's funny. I guess if you don't need it to pass the STAR test, I don't know if they're testing on it, right?
No, but I mean, it's little things like that where it's just like, I think they should know this by now. And even some of the stuff on the computer, like typing with both hands and not looking at what you're, not the poke and find. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, you don't understand that struggle until you have to start really typing, and then you're like, oh man, I can't. Yeah, I can't just do this and I'll never finish, But yeah, I think that's part of growing up. One of my daughters was staying at a friend's house. She jumps on a bike and goes for a ride and just gets lost. She's out in the country, out in a place that she doesn't really know, and just doesn't realize that she needs to pay attention, right? And I remember doing that same thing when I was a kid. You just go and then you're like, oh wait, do I need to take a left or a right, or does this come back around? And but I tell you, it helps you remember, right? Because your legs, if you're on a bike or whatever, you have to ride all that extra miles, and then you say, oh, you know what? Next time I'm going to remember. Yeah. I'm going to remember which way I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, I've got two girls that are going to be driving within the next 2 to 3 years, and all I'm thinking is, y'all got a lot to learn. I took both of them out already to work on parking, even though I'm advancing them probably too soon. But still, I'm just thinking, man, who's going to teach them this? Because I don't think they do that in school anymore. It's like you pay for the side thing now, and I think you even have an option for online classes even. Yeah. Where the parent becomes the teacher, and I'm just like, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing that my poor kids have been subjected to, because I know that they're not learning at the full capacity that they would be if they're at a school, right? So when Dad gets a wild hair, he just starts teaching about whatever he feels is relevant. And I dropped the compound interest term the other day. and I'm like, they were like, "What's that, Dad?" I was like, "How are you, my child? And you don't know what compounding interest is? Let's go to the whiteboard." And they're like, "Dad," I'm like, "Okay, how do banks make money?" And they're like, So anyway, so that's the torture.
What was this, the little one, or was this the older?
Well, I mean, they're
or
11,
just all of them.
I think they're 11 now. So, I mean, the sooner that you learn about compounding interest, the better it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
So,
and then until the ice cream truck comes by, and then they're just like, "Screw it, I'm not saving anything. I'm using it now."
Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been teaching. Some of what I've been teaching the kids, and kind of leads us into our topic today about having somebody. Some people call it a side hustle or a side gig, or your
Gotta
hobby.
keep it fresh.
Yeah, your hobby that makes you some money, but that secondary income. And so we're in an environment right now, John, that I think it's 40 million. Is that the latest number that you've heard? 40 million people have filed for unemployment since the last couple months, and
March 25th,
yeah,
to be exact.
So, I mean, that being the case, if 40 million people are filing for unemployment, to me that says that they don't have this secondary form of income, or it hasn't been nurtured, right?
Yeah.
To a point where it's a valid, it's a legitimate type of income.
Yeah, I mean, it really varies on what you do, because there's so many different types you can do.
Mm-hmm.
There's ones that you can do cash on the side, ones that report you 1099, and then some where you actually are starting up a whole company.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about why. I mean, definitely the coronavirus thing is right. Like everybody, well, not everybody. A lot of people lost their jobs, but it wasn't just jobs, right? It was even more. Like I know some people that they've had their secondary income was an Airbnb. Well, guess what? Nobody's Airbnb now, right? So even they lost their main source and a side source. But I would say that that's atypical.
Yeah. There's also a lot of boredom, though, that has led to a lot of different things, right?
What do you mean?
Well, we started this podcast. I wouldn't say it's fully out of boredom, but I definitely had a little more free time that made me start thinking.
Well, we had time that we wanted to convert from, passive time to bringing value, which is the goal here on the show. So,
Yep.
As always, if you're getting any value, we'd hope that you'd share that with other people. I mean, that's what we want to do, right? We want to empower people and kind of cover some things that are either new to us or we feel like have kind of hurt our growth path, right? Things that we want to teach our kids. And, for me.
Well, you've also been talking about that motorcycle. So there's a lot of people out there that want to.
Well, that's a big why for me.
Make a little extra on the side.
That's right. I mean, you nailed it. The hobbies, right? I mean, that's one of the things that I think you should have a side income for, is like for your hobby or traveling. And so actually that was what we used. So when I was doing the full-time corporate deal and Heather was doing Heather Hill Design, she's making logos and ads and whatever, but it was kind of part-time. She was a mom and then she'd take these jobs. But man, that was our vacation money. That's how we went on vacation, was whatever she made. It was like savings and vacation. So
nice.
It was kind of some incentive on her side because she wasn't the main income source. We were like, okay, our budget is all based on mine. So whatever you make, that's fluff. That's kind of the party money.
So everybody can go check your Facebook page to see how successful it was. That way they can tell how many vacations you were on.
Well, that's been a long time. And for a while she didn't do too much, but I think that that's a big why is like for, the motorcycle and the traveling, and then job loss is the obvious one, right? That, to my story, when she was doing her side deal, we had some savings set up. So instead, like when I lost my job, when our children were born, instead of having to freak out and panic, it was like, oh, well, at least we have a little bit of savings. But really, a lot of that savings was coming from her income. So I think that that's a huge reason to have that too.
And also, there's a lot of people out there that got used to not having to deal with their boss, maybe, or their job in particular that they hated because it was the same thing every day. Mm-hmm. So, wanting to get out of that same job has led to a lot of experimentation in other areas.
Yeah. I mean, like a bad boss is huge. It's a huge reason too.
Yeah.
Right. To kind of nurture something on the side. And I think really, it doesn't take tons of time to do something. And, even for me, when I was ready to make that leap, I was always thinking in this way, but I was always doing that thing on the side, growing it. And then for me, a time came where, man, you just can't, there's not enough hours in the day. So if you really want to do it, you're going to have to put it full in, which is another reason to have one, right? Like maybe it's a bad boss, but maybe it's you're in a job that you're thinking, man, maybe this isn't the career, this career path isn't really what I wanted. Or, I want something more. I want to try something different. We'll do it on the side. See how it works. Yeah. Right. I mean, you got 40 million people right now that are going to be looking for jobs and they may be settling, right? It's like, look, if there's no income coming in, you're like, well, I might flip burgers for a while or whatever it is, right? You may take something that you might not normally take, but because of the competitive environment of workforce trying to go back.
Oh, yeah. The clock's ticking. So right now they haven't made any other bills. They've made a bill that's passed through Congress, but Senate hasn't approved it, right? So the problem we run into right now is everybody's really going to start getting stressed because currently they only have 2 months left. 2 months to find a job before unemployment falls down to, here in Texas, it's the Texas state level, which the max is 521 a week. Mm-hmm. Whereas currently it's 1121.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a big change.
It's a huge change. So imagine losing half your check. I mean, most people aren't going to be able to rely on that. On top of that, you're going to think they've lost their insurance too if they were terminated from their job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now you're stuck with something like maybe Obamacare or just an emergency plan at this point.
Yeah.
So, I'm one of them. My wife changed her job. I got furloughed, then laid off. So I'm in that situation.
It's a perfect storm there, yeah.
Yeah. So clock's ticking. You're stressed. You have other issues going on, and it's just like, man, if things don't change quick, people are going to take the first thing. It may even be going to Walmart and working as a cashier.
Yeah, I think, and that's the, I had some numbers here that I'm bringing up before I actually have the numbers in front of me. So
now, how do you have numbers and I don't have numbers?
You're welcome for that. Where's all my saved? Okay, so here's the thing. Another reason why you should have a side income is because just a little bit a week can actually add up over the years. So
yeah,
even if you can just make $50 a week, that's like $2,500 a year, right? It's not gonna make or break you, but I tell you what, if I lost a job and I had an extra $2,500 in the bank, that would be a good thing.
It'll pay your taxes at the end of the year.
I mean, it's something, right? And it's $50 a week. You shouldn't have to exchange too much time to get $50 a week. And we can scale that on up. Even if you can generate $200 a week, that's like $10K a year. right? For $200 a week. And I mean, middle class, $200, it's not earth shattering, right? So even if you can just come up, how can I make $200 a week? Hey, at the end of the year, that's $10K. So that's not a bad vacation for $10K, right? I mean,
or a bass boat.
On a cruise, I mean, a $10,000 cruise or two vacations, two $5,000 vacations or whatever, right? I mean, at just $200 a week. And I think that people can do a lot better than that even. And it's just a side deal. So anything that you can add to it, I think is great for the money that you're going to have at the end of the year, which a lot of the problems that we're talking about, John, people say that money can't buy happiness. And while I agree with that, it sure can give you a little bit of peace of mind when you lose your job, or you got to pay for the insurance somehow, or right. So there's some things that having a little safety net here can really make things easier on you.
Absolutely. But I'm really eager to talk about the different jobs or different side jobs, right?
Yeah.
So you got a list that you found before launching the show. So why don't you read some of those bad boys off, and then I'll let you know what I have tried over the years and give you some tips, tricks, and downfalls.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a few, but I think it shows the simplicity of what you can do. Okay, here we go. I'll just cruise through these. Sell items that you already own on eBay or Craigslist. As a side note, I know a guy who actually made regular income buying the like the bargain bin CDs out of Walmart or no, DVDs. Yeah. Like, you go get 5 for $1 or whatever. It's just super cheap. And then he'd list them on eBay, and people in China would just buy them like crazy. And so I don't know what the market, or maybe not China, maybe just overseas.
Yeah.
But he would end up selling them for double what he paid. And, with listing and shipping and all that, but he'd make a few bucks for each one, and they'd always sell, right? So it was it was kind of tedious for him, but it was his extra money, and he also had a motorcycle, so he's probably,
Speaking of random things that you can get from your house, so the other day we found out that, Disney movies, the VHS tapes.
Oh, yeah?
Some of those are actually pretty valuable. Well, It turns out one of them is The Little Mermaid, and I know it's sitting at my parents' house because I didn't take it with me when I left. And man, I'm just sitting there going, I should have taken it.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? If you make $40 on a VHS, what's it doing? It's sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. So these are little things that you can think about. Okay. You can recycle your used smartphones on Gazelle. Haven't done that, but definitely if you can resurrect smartphones, there's easily a market for that. Deliver for Postmates.
Yeah.
Rent.
So Favor's big here in Texas.
Yeah.
It's starting to grow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially now in the last couple months, right?
Yeah.
So what's the next one? Rent a spare room on Airbnb. I think that's a great strategy, especially if you're single. I mean, I have a family, so for me to have somebody coming into my house is a little different, but if I had like a garage apartment, that would be good. If I was single, though, I would definitely be renting out 4 or 5 bedroom house. Boom, 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 boom. Renting out those extra rooms and making everybody else pay my rent.
But what's the risk you run on these city ordinances on that? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm kind of a high risk, high reward guy.
Screw it. I got to get a ticket before I got to worry about it.
I mean, for what? For renting out rooms?
There's some strange things around here.
I don't know where you live. Somebody came to my house and told me who I can have living in my house, though.
Yeah, I mean,
that would not be okay with me.
Yeah. That's just one thing they're going to have to think about before they...
Now, I mean, this is talking about Airbnb. Yes, that with your HOA could definitely cause like deed restriction and HOA issues. But just like if I said, hey, John, you want to be my roommate and rent out a room? I mean, that's just, that's not really Airbnb, right?
Yeah. That's Craigslist.
Yeah. Manage social media for small businesses. That's quite lucrative, actually, especially if you're good at it.
How would you find that?
How would you find it?
I figured they would go to marketers like you.
Well, sure. But, I mean, you have to imagine. I mean, some of my clients, they don't even know what I'm posting on Facebook for them. Like, they're that detached from the digital world, but they're savvy business people. So they're like, how much is it going to cost you? And I'm like, oh, a whole lot. And they're like, well, right. But if you do it right, then it makes them money, so they don't care. But for some people, they want to pay a minimum, right? Oh, I can't pay over $100, $150. And you're sitting there going, okay, well, if I can just get, if it's $100, if you could just get 5 of those and post some things for them, there's your 500 a month, right? And it's on the side and you kind of figure it out. You do it in the evening and who knows, you might get laid off and then turn into a digital marketer like me, right? I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
Answer questions on Just Answer. I know you can take surveys and stuff too. Sell services on Fiverr. That's another good one. I mean, even just being a virtual assistant and saying, hey, I'll do whatever you want. Here's my hourly rate. I mean, I had somebody calling me today.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I want to work. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know?
Yeah, if you're good at Photoshop, if you have a good voice, I mean, those
voiceovers,
are some,
for sure, right? I mean, isn't that where that's where we got our intro.
Thanks for giving it away.
We're
never going to get them to work for us now.
But I've had, I mean, I've done voiceover stuff, you know, and I thought, how in the world would you ever get into that? But you know what? Somebody's like, hey, Alton, mic sounds good. Voice sounds nice. Do this. I'm going to say, okay. Let's see. What else
wasn't any of those like, it was just a happy birthday.
No,
there wasn't anything cheesy like that, right?
It wasn't creepy, man. Write an ebook, drive for Uber or Lyft, tutor over Skype, start a blog, create an online course, do micro jobs on Mechanical Turk. I don't even know what that is. Sounds exciting. Build a sales funnel with ClickFunnels, produce an audiobook, create a YouTube channel, different tutorials. Here's the thing that I mean, these are just a few. Here's what, well, I don't know, John, you wanted to comment on some of these. I think you've done some of that driving, haven't you?
Yeah. So
I've heard some people making good money, like $500 a weekend doing that.
Oh, I've met and seen some that make way more than just 500 in a weekend. So I've done Favor, which is like Grubhub, Postmates, things like that. I have done Uber as well as Uber Eats. I have done Amazon delivery. They've made some changes to Amazon, so I'm not sure how exactly that works. So you'd have to research that. But
it's possible. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
This is possible.
There's so many things that you could end up doing with your car. And, you know, let's do the favoring, for example. There was a guy, when I first started doing that, I ran into him at a pizza parlor. He was in his shirt and I was in my shirt and we were styling, and he walks up to me. He's like, "You're new, aren't you?" It's like, yeah. He goes, I've been doing this for a while. Let me tell you, here's where you need to go. It just happened to be the guy that I needed to talk to. Yeah. And he showed me. He made over $1,100 in 3 days. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then he's got all this other stuff he showed me. I mean, his year is about $75,000.
Yeah.
And that's just driving. I can't drive as much as he was saying, because it was something like 12 to 14 hours that he would do at least 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. But he had hit all the little spiffs that they constantly post.
Yeah.
It worked out. He had a fuel efficient vehicle and he could handle just doing that all day. It would drive me insane doing that. So, because I always look for the easier way to make the bigger money.
Well, sure, right. But, you know, I know one of the things that Dave Ramsey talks about is like delivering pizzas or whatever, right? To kind of dig your way out of debt. And so when you're looking for ways to kind of maximize your profit, I know some people like that's what they have is a car. So look, you have a car and you have time, make it happen, right? And that's what we're talking about, is the ability to do that. And there's definitely, more white collar type of side jobs too, right? I mean, I know I've worked with engineers in corporate America that are doing stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why. It's like, well, we want to network with some other people. I want to add some other projects to my portfolio, so they're doing these types of things too. That, like you mentioned, Photoshop, video editing. I mean, there's a lot of these softwares that you can really get good at. That someone like me, I might do a lot of video, but I don't have the time to edit it. Right. So what I want to say is I think a lot of times people have a mental block. Like no one would ever, I remember thinking this. I've done video for my entire life, and I remember thinking no one is ever going to pay me to video. Like you got to be certified, or like, I don't know what, I just thought that no one's going to pay me for that. I'm doing it like every day. I don't want to do the editing, but I haven't made the time to really look and find someone to edit. But I'm telling you, if you're a good editor, that I guarantee you there's guys out there shooting video that they don't want to edit. So all you have to do is pay the Adobe Suite fee per month, have a decent computer that can process video, and man, you can use it. But I just want to point out that not having that mind block. So,
but you also have to be careful. You need to research, like we've constantly talked about in most of our segments, where you have to know what you're getting into. So you take those delivery options that we've listed thus far, a lot of the Uber driving or even some of the favoring, it's that back and forth. Mm-hmm. But then you think about Amazon, where you go to one location, you pick up all these packages on their app. When you go to deliver, they actually have it formatted in one smooth motion. And normally it even formats to where you end as close to your house as possible.
Nice.
So it's a little different in that aspect. But then there's other aspects you got to think about. If you were going to drive for Uber, are you just going to jump in your Prius and go? Are you going to jump in your F-150 and go? No. You need to look at that list of cars that they accept and what level they're accepted in.
Sure.
Because I'll tell you what, you have, say, an Expedition. I don't know what the year model is now, but when I was driving, it was like the cutoff was Expedition 2013. Anything 13 and newer, you could classify as black or limited, and you can make 2 to 3 times per ride more.
For sure.
Absolutely. I will spend my money on a used vehicle that falls right within that category and go. If you have a Prius and that's it, great. Okay. You got the gas mileage savage.
Sure.
But you really have to be careful about that. And then you have to think about the wear and tear. So there's a lot of different things to keep in mind. And you still then have to research where your hot spot's at what times of the day. Yeah. Because, the Uber driving, your hot times are going to be the weekends. It's going to be the late nights. Like Monday morning when everybody's flying in from the airport, late nights from the clubs. You're going to work these odd hours. Even though you get to, quote unquote, choose your hours, you really don't have much of a choice if you want to make some decent money.
Right, yeah.
Now let's go back to your statement of $50 a day. I can do that in an hour, maybe 2 hours with Favor or Uber. And Amazon, I don't think you can do it that short of a time frame. Sure. It's going to take you probably 2 hours to complete that at minimum.
Invest more, but that's the thing, right? Is that there's options, and one of the things that I would encourage to anything that you're going to do with a car is always going to be competitive, because pretty much everybody has a car, pretty much everybody has a driver's license. Well, guess what? You're just another fish in that huge ocean. Now, if you're driving a late model Range Rover and you want, they're like, oh, we'll pay you a lot more. Why? Well, because not everybody has a Range Rover and wants to go drive around picking people up at 2 a.m., right? Yeah. So if you do, then you're a little special. And if you want to make more money, then you need to have some type of a specialty, right? If you want to earn more, that's you either help more people or you really specialize. And with a car, for an example, you can help one person at a time, right? Yep. You can't drive two cars, so that's not really scalable. What I want to encourage is that people think about what they love and what they're good at, and some things that they're already doing that they're not getting paid for. Like I saw a friend of mine, he on Facebook, he posts this table, and I was like, oh, that's a cool looking table. And his post was, he goes, yeah, I just built this table for my wife. She's really going to love it. I'm fixing to give it to her and let her paint it. He goes, but it's for sale for the right price. Yeah, just let me know. Which I thought was kind of funny. And maybe he was in the doghouse that night. But point being,
have you talked to him since?
No, I'm not stirring that pot. The point is, he wanted to do that. He could have just given it to his wife and been like, look, I make things out of wood. Here you go, honey. But instead he goes, hey guys, look, if you like it, let me know. I'll make you one. We can talk about the price. So he's already doing it. He has that skill set. And I think so many people they do things and they just discount it like I did. Right? Nobody's going to pay me for video. Yeah. Well, it's not true, but in my head it was true, and so it was true, right?
Well, it's just like the COVID thing. Everybody's making masks for their family members, and then there's been several of them that have turned into a business because you see the tents on the side of I-35. Mm-hmm. So it's random things that can still turn into something better off for you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've talked about stocks. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've thought about it in the past, but ever since me and you talked about it that one day, I watched too many hours of
your mind.
Yes, I've watched too many hours of stock trading and what to do and what not to do. And
but that's the thing too, right? Like it's great if you say, hey, look, I've been a videographer my entire life, videoing my friends. Let me turn this skill that I have, let me monetize that. That's one way to do it. But then there's also, I don't have a skill or I don't have however much money to buy a camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what can you do with that? Well, let's say that you're an aspiring wedding videographer or just a photographer, right? Well, start taking photos with your iPhone, build a... start building your portfolio. So nobody's paying you right now because who are you? You haven't done anything, but you know what you can do is you can look at all these tutorials. What's the best way to get, good images out of my iPhone? And then you start doing that. And then you start getting your friends to let you do their headshots, and you grab your old lamp from your grandma's house and you start working that lighting, and you hone that skill that's related to your passion. And I think that just being willing to invest, even if you're not making money. I mean, that's the thing with like Uber or Lyft. You're not really, it's not really a skill. I mean, definitely there's some savvy ways that you can learn the system and maximize that. But it's just delivery, right? But if you say, I'm going to learn how to get really good at Lightroom, now all of a sudden it's like Photoshop. Oh, okay. Photoshop, Lightroom, it's a photo editing tool from Adobe. If you get good at that skill, well, you can really make your own pictures look a lot better. Guilty. Or you can sell that skill now to someone else that, hey, I want you to, take this mole off of my face or make my hair look better or take the background out or take my X out or whatever it is. Now you have this skill that you can bring to the market. And if like what you're doing, John, I think is great. Studying up on the stocks, right? Like learning what to do with your money before the money's in there at risk, right? You're educating, you're going to school. I mean, we can all do that on our are side deals. Like if you want to get serious, oh, I want some passive income from a rental property. Well, I hope you're studying up on how to buy right and how to manage your taxes and how to acquire that property, and maybe realtors that specialize in flipping or buy and hold, or I mean, you don't just go and do it. There's a lot of preemptive things. So I think that's an important thing to consider.
Yeah, and I think a good thing for everybody to remember is, even if it's a second job that maybe you're not getting paid for right now. For example, there was a job posting for a volunteer HR position here in Austin. Mm-hmm. I thought about taking it because you got to think, even though I won't be getting paid for it, it can always turn into something else because I get to add it on my resume. I get to network and meet new people. And on top of that, I'm life experiences doing whatever I'm doing at that time. It's just this podcast. Mm-hmm. There's a million different things it could turn into.
Oh yeah.
Or we could just phase out and then that's it. We
could just enjoy it, right? I mean, we could say, hey, look, we had some good conversations and we recorded them. But yeah, and I think I'm glad that you pointed that out because it's really about planting those seeds, and kind of like the parable of the sower. You don't know where all the seeds are going to land and what's going to sprout up and what's going to get cooked by the sun and eaten by the birds. But if you're not sowing the seeds out there, nothing's growing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what I learned was that, I think I mentioned that when I worked for AMD, there were quite a few layoffs. And so at a very young in my career, I realized like, oh man, yeah, I think I had this job, but they could just kick me out. Not me getting fired, just saying, hey guys, we don't have any money to pay you, so you should probably go home. Oh, right. And so for me, I was like, ooh, this means I need to have savings and I need to come up with some skills that I could have. And, for me, like I build houses in high school. So I always kind of had this carpenter type of thing. And actually even later on in life when, even though I had money, I was kind of bored and waiting for jobs and stuff. And I'd go do it, do it with my buddies just for fun. I mean, I got paid, but it's like I had these skill sets that I could use. And
I just wish you had an AC background. I mean, you could have really used it in this room.
No, this is the hot box.
Was this originally supposed to be your MMA room?
Oh, it still could be, John. I mean, just watch what you say. Oh, no, I do need some mats. It's true.
So, let's keep in mind, we were talking about the stocks just a second ago. It's just like that. That's risk, reward. You have to think about it even before you jump into it. Sorry. And then once you are in it, you still have to manage your risk and reward.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
It's not just simply go out there and just pick something and go.
I mean, you can, but I mean, the potential that the stock market has to generate passive, I mean, we're talking about, some active income strategies, right? Like I'm driving for Uber or whatever, but there's also a lot like the Airbnb is a little more passive, right? And if you bought real estate, that is even more passive. Stock market, more passive. I mean, there's action in anything, right? If you're farming it all out, there's also risk involved with that, right? Especially when it comes to money. So there's active and passive income ideas, right? So we have a limited amount of time, so it's good to fill that time up with productive things. But then there's also things that you can do to earn passive income where you can really scale that, right? Because you're not trading your time for it. So, I've got friends that still have full-time day job, but they've done this. One of my friends is doing salsa. He's got like this awesome recipe for salsa. People keep telling him, you need to sell it. And bam, now he's selling it. And now he's got these grocery stores that are selling it. And so, he hasn't quit his day job, but all the time he's working. He's like, maybe one day I'm just going to be sitting here collecting checks while people are buying my salsa, right? Another guy's doing a lot of like personal training, jiu-jitsu. He's like a rehab therapist person, You know,
physical therapy.
Yeah, there you go, that thing. And but he's got his black belt, and so he's got students that he, it's like a limited class size, so you get a lot of special attention that he does in the evenings, and he just making extra money and doing that. So I think, there's so many different ways. I know one guy, he's a welder. He's sold cattle guards, right, on the side. And he's got an engineering background, makes good money, but he likes making the cattle guards. That's kind of his little thing that he's like, oh, what am I going to do in the weekends? Oh, weld up these cattle guards and sell them. So there's just really an endless amount of things that you can do. Just think about it. And I mean, look, if there are people who are making money playing Xbox, making millions a year streaming their Xbox, like, you can find some way to monetize your skill set. If you're a car mechanic, go out there, change the oil on your 2009 Pontiac G8, record it, upload it to YouTube. And for all the people who don't know how to change the oil on a 2009 Pontiac G8 are going to find your video and use it. And maybe that doesn't make you tons of money, but you're giving value. And hey, if you hit the right one, you can definitely make money from YouTube for sure.
Yeah. So, we talked about all these different options, but I feel like we've categorized it all into people that maybe don't have money or have a lower penny bank to play with.
Yeah.
So let's switch it and move it towards other options. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the people that maybe have a little savings saved up, and there's other options out there for you. Did you know that you could open up a Tiki's shaved ice van or Kona ice? Mm-hmm. You can get something like that for $50,000 roughly. And you now have
too?
Say what?
The van and the franchise?
Yeah, van and franchise. And then of course you got to buy other little materials. So maybe you're looking at 60, 70. But you now own, say, Austin, and now you've got this side gig. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, if you play your cards right, you don't have to drive.
Oh, for sure.
You can hire someone fresh out of high school, or maybe one of these stay-at-home kids, and they can drive. They can go to these events. There's a few different options, and you're not even doing much of anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe you focus on advertising.
Man, I've heard about some of these taco trucks.
Yeah.
Making some serious money.
Oh, absolutely.
Serious money.
Yeah. I want to look at a margarita truck.
Well, I've even heard of like, you don't get on my turf.
Yeah.
Like, this is my construction site. I noticed your truck was here. We're going to have a problem if you don't get your truck out of my construction site.
Yes.
Type of deal. So, not condoning that, but I like the taco truck idea.
Or heck, there's those people that'll come by with their whole trailer full of fruit from the valley. Mm-hmm. And you look at it and you're like, this still has a barcode. This is from HEB. So there's all sorts of things. But having money, I mean, that opens up even more. You don't have to look at some of those original ideas that we talked about, Uber and all that.
I mean, a good financial advisor can do a lot if you don't want to get into the market yourself, right? They can teach you some, take your money and do some good things with it. I mean, I think that if you don't know what you're doing and you don't want that responsibility, definitely find a good financial advisor. But if you want to take that risk on yourself and that responsibility on yourself, then probably outperform the market if you know what you're doing, right? I mean, real estate is a great way, great investment, for sure. I mean, definitely if you have money, it's easier to come up with passive income strategies.
Yeah.
For sure. But usually if you have some money, you've figured out at least something. You probably have like a high income skill, or you're just being smart and living below your means.
Yeah. So, deciding factor.
So should we have a side gig? I mean, is that a good idea
or
not? Is it worth the extra time?
All right.
That's the question.
Now it's time for our deciding factor.
All right, I guess I'll kick this one off. look, if it's not clear where I stand on this one yet, I'm in 1000% in favor. It's, I think that as the saying goes, that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And
7 streams.
yeah. So if that's the case and you only have one, then
Does my wife count as one of them?
I mean, good. Yeah. Certainly could. But so from that standpoint, we've all heard don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? I mean, that kind of idea. I've lived through so many layoffs and downturns. I kind of take the Boy Scout mentality of don't rely on one thing. And I also have a lot of responsibility. I have my wife, all of my children, and don't want to let them down. So I feel, honestly, and no offense intended by this, but if you only have one form of income, to me, that's kind of irresponsible. And you're kind of putting your family at a risk that I think is avoidable, right? Because if you lose, and I'm talking more of the low income stuff, right? Or you don't have $100,000 sitting in the bank that could be working for you, right? The majority of America is paycheck to paycheck. So that's you. You need to find a side hustle. You need to find that other source of income and start leveraging that. And, because to me, that's really the most responsible thing, especially as a kind of head of a family and just a person who wants to live a little more stress-free life. If you have a little more, you can, not be so stressed when things like this, these black swan crazy things happen. And you can also be ready to give more and just do more with that if you're planning ahead. And that's what I see this as. It's planning ahead, because we all know these crazy things happen. And so we need to be planning ahead for when they do, because they will.
So I'm not as cut and dry as you. And I think there's just too much to it. So is it good to have a second job? Yeah, in reality. But then there's a lot of other factors you got to think about. And the mentality. There's a lot of people, and I would say my wife is one of them, and I'm borderline it. It's live now, not later. Mm-hmm. So, this idea of saving and getting ready for retirement. Are you kidding me? I can get in a wreck driving home right now after we get done with this podcast. So I've saved all these years, or I'm trying to, and I just lost out on maybe going to Disney World next week.
For sure.
Something like that. It's just one of those things, and a lot of people have that mindset. Now, I am an entrepreneur type mind, so I do like digging into these things. So I'm looking at things like stocks with you. Mm-hmm. We got the podcast going. I do have other little side gigs that I look into, but then there's reality.
You've done like all of these.
I've done everything. That list you read was my list.
It pretty much was.
But it's, I'm not afraid to try new things, but it's at the same time, you got to know when to cut your losses. I'll give you a great example. I had a fishing supplies website back in 2013-ish, and it was fun. I was enjoying it because I love fishing. So it hit all these boxes that we've talked about throughout the show. The problem is the dealer I had could not keep everything stocked, and I was selling stuff.
Oh man.
So I had to constantly be in touch with these people and say, hey, it's not going to be in stock for X period of time.
Yikes.
And a lot of people just wanted their money back. I can get it on Amazon faster or Tackle Warehouse. And so it's just like, I can't compete with this.
Yeah.
So at some point it's like, I'm doing so great, but I've got to call it quits because it's just not panning out. And I kept trying to research and find another dealer, and it was like, I wasn't finding it.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep anything stocked like I needed to because there's all these popular things. So, I think about that. Or even when I Ubered, I don't want to work some of these hours because it takes away the good times with the kids.
Yeah.
So, sometimes fun's not what you're going to get out of your second job. And if that's the case, you gotta weigh it. For me, it was time with the kids that I wanted. So screw it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Doing something like Favor. Yeah, great. But it's that actually is kind of a nice little side deal for people, but I don't want you to do that around Austin, because then you might take away some of the money I can make. Here's another thing we didn't say, though, is something people might be forgetting is during these times, this Corona, you lost your first job. Now you're looking at your second job for income. Guess what? Unemployment won't pay you if you have another job.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not running it through your LLC or something else, you might run into an issue there. So you got to think about things like that. Are you going to give up $1,100 check every week to go to this little side job that really only makes you, like we said, $100 extra a week or $200? Mm-hmm. Sorry. I mean,
but if you had been doing that for a year, right? Like, then you'd have some cash set aside. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I hear you.
So, it varies, you know.
You got to find the right one. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's got to be the right one for the right person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell everybody to just up and go. It's definitely got to be the right fit. So you do the research, great. Fits you, great. There's a lot of options.
Yeah.
No money, some money, lots of money. Bored out of your mind. There's stuff for you to do. So
I think I mean, I definitely agree with that 100%.
I do like our previous our hot topic on this, which was you're sowing seeds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this podcast is great.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that can come from it, even if it's not money.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something else.
Oh,
and it's the same for some of these other things me and you have talked about and done on the side. So there's a lot of good to come, even if you're not making money.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think that's really, you know, like you with the fishing thing, you know, it's, you know, you were enjoying it. It didn't work out forever, right? But you did it and you were profitable. And that kind of reminds me actually that I had forgotten about it. I wish I would have remembered it for the show. I mean, we're still on, but hey, yeah, my mom actually, one of her little side deals was making lures. This was probably like 30 years ago.
Plastic lures or those fly?
No, like plastic. Like we were putting skirts on jigs
and
stuff, and like putting a little hair on the whatever. And so she'd bring home like all of these things, and then we'd all sit there and make the crap out of some lures. and it was like a pretty fun thing for me and my brother and her to just kind of participate together. So I'm going to throw that in there as a little bonus nugget, is that if you have a little side gig, it might be a way for you to help teach your children like some skills. You know, maybe they can't do your main job, but hey, you could have this side thing and you could teach them about that, which is really invaluable. Even if you're not making that much money, you're teaching your kids a skill set.
No, your kids can absolutely do it, even in school. This year, Katie, she went to school and she had bought a thing from Dollar General. It was these little gummies. Mm-hmm. And she started selling them. I think she bought the thing for $10 and she was selling 2 for $1 or something. She was making money off of these.
Okay, so that's the deal. I changed my deciding factor.
Oh, you can't change it.
Don't do a secondary income source for yourself. Teach your kids how to do it. That's perfect. It's outsourcing. You just teach your kids, like bring all the lures home, make your kids do all that. Can you just get the profits? So that's a passive income strategy for you. All right, I'm done.
Check your child labor laws first. Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, this was a great topic, especially during this time, because people are still going to be without money.
That's right. Get motivated. Do something. You know, start sowing those seeds, y'all. It's going to come back for sure.
Yeah, I really hope everyone out there listening starts getting back in the groove, can find a job if you're looking. If you've been working this whole time, kudos. I'm glad you were there. If you're part of the healthcare group, I'm really happy you stayed plugging away, and we appreciate you. Anything else you want to add to it, Alton?
No, I'm looking forward to the next one. Don't forget, like, comment. Been getting texts when these things go live, but you guys can just, I'm not giving out my phone number just yet, but y'all can certainly,
512.
y'all can certainly leave some comments on the YouTubes and in the face space. Where else are we, John?
Face space.
Yeah, come on. In the interwebs. It's out there. That's right. I'm a digital marketer.
Yep.
I got all the right terms.
Your stock's going up tonight.
That's right.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking, and glad to have y'all listening. Say bye.
Adios.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.